Okay, so here we are back at the radio station. It's been a while since I have done any kind of video update, any kind of status, any kind of improvement review. So I'm going to sort of roll all those things into one. It's been probably a couple months since at least a couple months since I've done the last update. So there are things that have changed, some more minor than others. It's not a huge sea change, but there are some things that are different, some things that are new, some things that are adjusted. So I thought I'd do that as well, sort of roll that into just a once again overall review. So let's start off in the transmitter section. Here we are at the transmitter. So the transmitter is fundamentally the same. We still have the same BW Broadcast TX600. Down here, we are running at about 30 watts. We have the watt meter above and then the modulation monitor above that. Now, the real difference here, all this equipment was original, or at least, previous original. The big difference is that it's all been enclosed in the same box, tidied up, neatened up, all the wires are sort of put together. There's not stuff lying all over the side, sitting on the top, wires, making circuitous routes, everything's sort of much more tidied up. Functionally, it's the same, but just aesthetically and presentation-wise, a nice singular package doing the whole job. Still have the antennas in the roof. Basically, they're sitting under a giant wooden radome, otherwise known as my roof in the attic. So this is the transmission section. All right, so let's pick it up and head towards the studio. All right, the first thing we're going to notice about the studio is that it is now enclosed in its own room. It's behind this door, so let's check it out. First thing we'll notice is that we finished off the wall here and a sort of a half knee wall behind the desk. The desk was previously stained and polyurethane, but it got a bit of more of a finished look right now to it. The whole thing does. Same basic principle as the last time we were in here. We have the two racks. We have the turntable, my Technics 1200 knockoff, otherwise known as an Audio-Technica, and the Behringer board. We have the main mixing board, computer. We also have a new rack here that is full of the microphone preamps, 4 of them, because we now have 4 mics. So let's get started with a revisit of the original rack. This is the rack on the right. Okay, so here we are, the rack on the right. Same dual tray CD player, the cassette player. Fortunately, I don't use this enough. It's a beautiful piece of machinery. Definitely top end in the late 80s, early 90s. I wish I used this more because it is a really nice cassette deck. 2 levelers. These 2 levelers originally were taking the audio from the computer and just managing that. I have disconnected them from that circuit, so they're standing here alone, taking up rack space, not really doing anything. That's them. Telephone hybrid, the TI-101. What I've done here and added to this is a tube amp, an ART tube preamp, and this basically takes the output from the Symmetrix TI-101, that's the hybrid, and with the this ART gives me more control over the gain, the output, and limiting. It sort of produces a cleaner signal, so that's why that's there. And then below that we have the CD controllers. Now the CD controllers can be controlled by the board. I'll show you that later. But for now, that is the right rack. Let's get over to the left rack. Okay, here we are over at the left rack. As before, the program bus from the board feeds this DBX166XL, which acts like a low-end gate. From there, it goes down to this DBX graphic equalizer with a bump here in the low range, but that's it. Otherwise, it's pretty flat. And then from here, it goes to the Behringer 9024, which is basically like just a DSP, but it's a decent DSP. It's got 6 individual channels, all with limiting and compressing, and then a final out, which is limited and compressed as well. This thing is very configurable, and I probably haven't pushed this to where it needs to be or could be, but it is what it is right now, and it's suiting my purposes. Because of the Behringer, I really no longer now need the Aphex here. This was a 3-band analog control or signal processor, and this is a 6-band digital DSP processor. So this is taking up space. Still can be used as a backup, but right now it's not being used. And then again, as before, the audio goes out of the final processor into the distribution amp, which then feeds two VU meters, the LED one and then the analog one. And really the LED is ends up being effectively a peak or a peak meter, and then the analog ends up being sort of the RMS meter, RMS VU meter versus the peak VU meter. All right, so let's get to the board. Okay, so the board. Still have our 4 mic levels or mic strips, followed by the rest of these. These 6 are lines. So we have our CD1, CD2. This is a telephone. This one is the cassette player, which obviously is not used all that much. And this is the turntable, and this is the computer. So if I'm to turn this off, you'll hear the music go out. So that's the board. Now I've also upgraded the software that's running the station here. This is a Radio DJ version 2.0.0.0. It's a free software on the internet. It really does the job well. It's an excellent assist as well as fully automated tool or automation capable tool. And I'm really just scratching the surface of that. This is relatively new, and I'm still figuring out exactly the things it can do, and then trying to make the best use of that. But right now, it's what I got for myself for the automation, as well as most of the audio, because most of the audio is from the computer. All right, so there's the computer and the board. Let's go to the mic preamps. Okay, so here we are with the 4 mic preamps. I have 3 Symmetrix 421 ACG levelers. It's actually an AGC, automatic gain control levelers. Those are these 3. And then I have, these are all very legacy, 80s, again, out of the 80s, maybe the 90s. And then I have a 2000 plus version, current, this is used today. That's this one. It's the PreSonus Studio channel. So the difference between them, beside the fact that technology is superior today than it was yesteryear, the biggest differences, fundamentally though, are that on the Symmetrix levelers, they really can do level control only, and they do that via compression and limiting. Now they do have a speech curve here, which starts at the low end, knocking off from below 125 hertz and knocking off above 6 kilohertz. So that's the tone control, if you would even call it that they can do. So again, really, it's mostly level control. Now the PreSonus, on the other hand, is different. So in addition to all the level control with the compressing and limiting that it can do, it has a much more robust tone control. It has a 3-band parametric equalizer. So you can set your bands, you can set the width of the equalization, and then you can set the gain for each of those channels. So very customizable, and does have a great sound. You'll hear that sound later. All right, those are the 4 mic preamps. And let's get down to the mics themselves. Okay, so I have 4 microphones. I'll start in reverse order. This is a CAD. This is basically just a brand X microphone. It's a condenser microphone. I got it at a computer store. Sounds decent, but it is definitely the least expensive of all of my mics. All right, now next mic up is this Electro Voice RE20. This is a great mic, and you'll hear these all in just a minute. My EV RE20. And then next is another condenser microphone. This is an AKG C214 condenser microphone. Love this mic, especially it's got a good look, but it's also got a fantastic sound. So this is the AKG C214. And then my last and most definitely not least, my favorite mic is my Sennheiser MD421. Excellent microphone, goes way back. This is totally old school, but it is a great sounding microphone. Okay, so that is a wrap on the studio itself, and now upcoming will be the microphone comparison. Okay, so now we get to the microphone test. And actually, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to display the fundamentals of how I've rigged up some of the controls on the board itself to launch some of the music that I have, and I'll do that first, and then I'll end it up with the microphone test. Okay, so I said that CD1 and CD2. So here's CD1. I'll do it over here like this. CD1 start stop. CD2 start stop. The phone I can bring up. I'll do the turntable, and we've already seen the computer. So CDs. Start, stop, and CD2. Start, stop, the phone. Start, stop, and then the turntable. All these are remote controls, obviously. It would help if I had the thing queued up. And then the turntable. All right, so there's the turntable. One bit of housekeeping, obviously, due to what it is that I'm doing and the issues that I could get into if I was identified, I'm not showing anything other than the back of my head that's intentional. Probably not a good idea to be identified and located. I have to this effort or to this end looked and did a reverse search on my image, and it found me. So probably not a good idea for the obvious reasons. All right, so on with the mic test. So this is my mic, my Sennheiser, my MD421. I love this mic. It's got a great sound, as you can tell. Next mic is going to be this is going to be my AKG C214. You can definitely tell that this is the one on the Personas because of it sounds a little clearer. It also has, and maybe I can tell it because I know what my voice sounds like, it has very much of an equalized sense to it. So anyway, this is the AKG running through the Personas. And this is the EV RE20 running through one of the Symmetrixes. And this is my Brand X, also running through one of the Symmetrixes. Now, I'll give some of the specs on all of these mics, but you can see what they sound like. They all sound pretty good, but definitely to my ear, coming from my voice, I kind of like the EV and the Sennheiser the best. Okay, so with that in mind, let's do the spec sheet via the EV. So the AKG C214, which is this one here, which I hope you can see. I'm not sure. Let's do that. Okay, is a condenser microphone with a cardioid pickup pattern. It has got a single position bass roll-off switch. It's got a very smooth and silky tone. It's got a great sound to it. It really does. Does need a windscreen. And it retails for about just under $400. I got it significantly cheaper than that because on the foam screen it had some dimples on it, and as a result, I was able to get a discount, pretty good discount actually. But anyway, AKG C214, fantastic mic. Next one is the Electro Voice RE20. That's this one, the one I'm talking about right now. It's a dynamic microphone with a cardioid pickup pattern with a single position bass roll switch at the base, no pun intended. It's got a very flat sound, great top range, bottom range, the whole thing. It really is good. It's got an internal windscreen, so it needs a windscreen, an additional pop filter or an additional windscreen only if you address it head on and you are a breather, basically. It runs for about $450, and I did pay retail for this and have been happy with every single cent. The third one is the CAD GXL. That's this one here. I hope you can see it in the frame. It's a GXL 2200, a CAD GXL 2200. It's a condenser microphone with a cardioid pickup pattern. Does not have an external manual tone control. It's pretty plain Jane, but it's got a good overall tone. Does need a windscreen. It's very susceptible to pops, but its biggest redeeming factor is its price. It was only $100. And just an editorial note on that, it sort of falls into the discussion of diminishing returns when it comes to microphones. So from my perspective, microphones, you do notice, easily notice the dollar for dollar difference between quality and cost, up from $0 up to about $100 to $150. And from that price point on, there is an inflection. That $100 to $150, it is an inflection point. And beyond that threshold, you get diminishing returns for every extra dollar spent. Now, are the microphones that are more expensive better? Yes, they are. Are they dollar for dollar better? It's hard to make that argument. They probably aren't dollar for dollar better, but they are better. So that's my editorializing on the mics in the lower end versus upper end of decent microphones. Obviously, if you're going to get a cheapie from Radio Shack, like an electric microphone, different story. But with these relatively, inexpensive but fundamentally good quality, that's the comparison I'm making there. Anyway, the last one is the Sennheiser. This is the MD421. It's a dynamic microphone with a cardioid pickup pattern. Has a 5-position bass roll-off switch at the base of the mic here. It's a rotary. It's got an excellent low end, excellent high end, crisp tone. It's great for the spoken voice. It's also actually does well with kick drums and things like that, but it's an excellent vocal mic. Does need a windscreen, and it retails also for just under $400. I got this a little cheaper because it was the floor model, but retail it's about $400. Now, the one other comment I'm going to make is that they're all cardioid pattern pickup, but the dynamic microphones are much better at isolating and rejecting side and ambient sound, and really focusing in on that sort of that cone of sensitivity just in the front. The cardioid ones, they do reject to the side a little bit, but not nearly as well as the dynamic microphones, especially the CAD. It might as well be completely circular pattern. It's side to side rejection is just not that great. The AKG is a little bit better. And they do say that about condenser microphones, that due to the fact that they are condensers, they're much more sensitive. So, of course, they're going to pick up, ambient sounds much more than a dynamic microphone. Okay, anyway, that is the mic test. I think we've done everything else that I've done here. This is the studio and the transmitter and the whole station, really, as it stands today in its almost final state. And with that, I'm going to, let me see, Big Head Todd and the Monsters. Bittersweet is what we're going to fade out to. Thanks for watching.